my name is Sandra, and today I want to talk about painting with mica powder. So before we actually get into it, I wanted to remind you to wear proper protection, including gloves, a mask or respirator, a really good mask or respirator, long sleeves, and also I wear safety goggles just to protect my eyes, because even if you're not dealing with resin immediately, you're just doing mica powder, sometimes the mica powder can dry out your hands, and also you don't want to necessarily inhale that kind of particulate. So yeah, just take care of your health and protect yourself. The first thing you want to remember with mica powder is that wherever you put the mica powder, that's pretty much where it's going to stay. There are certain ways you can kind of get rid of it, like you can use tape. You can actually put resin into it. Sometimes I'll use UV resin and let it harden and just kind of peel the color out. But it's a pain and a chore to get rid of it. So wherever you put that mica powder, it's going to stay there. The second thing you want to remember is that mica powder does not overlay well. You can put metallic powder behind it and kind of change the color of it, but once you put one color down, you can't just paint over it. Whatever color is facing the bottom of the mold, that's what color is going to be, and it's pretty much just going to fuse to that color. So just putting extra color behind it really doesn't change much. Now, you can never be too careful and 100% sure that all the colors are going to come out right. So there's always a risk of like some of the little mica powder going where it shouldn't when you paint a mold, but you can kind of mitigate that risk by doing a few things. So as you just watch the examples I give you, just kind of keep in mind what I'm about to tell you. So first of all, when you actually use your mica powders, I take my brush and I kind of tap it either on the back of my hand, and again, I'm wearing gloves, so I'll tap it on the back of my hand. That could be a problem for some people, like if it gets too messy, like if you've picked up a lot and you tap a bunch and then you're working and you're scattering mica powder. But if you're kind of conservative and careful like I am, that works fine for me. I also, if I'm trying to save the mica powder and it's like similar colors, I will go ahead and tap it on the glass or the plastic container so that it falls back into the container before I use it. So by just tapping it, kind of takes off some of the excess mica powder from the brush, so it won't kind of dust up when you're actually working with it. So another thing you can do to kind of mitigate the risk of putting colors where it shouldn't go is basically painting I would say the difficult part first, painting the small edges. So in the example I showed earlier with the French fry, you want to paint the fries first because it's a lighter color, and also because it's a smaller kind of surface area and it's a little bit easier to get into those crevices and just put that color down. And then when you're done, you can fill in the large area, which is actually the container for the fries. Because it's such a large surface area, you kind of just put your color down, and if it happens to get behind the yellow, it won't matter, because remember, generally the colors don't show through once the bottom layer is on there. If it's all kind of like a flat surface, it's a lot easier to kind of run over. So again, you have to take in consideration how deep the parts are, how close together they are. Is there a big surface area that you can kind of paint at the end? In some instances, you actually might want the colors to blend. So a lot of times when I paint my dragons, I try to make them look as natural and realistic as possible. So that requires me to do some shading. I might have several different shades of colors, and so I can start by like using like the lighter ones, and I look at how I want that dragon to be kind of lit. Now, by no means would I consider myself to be an artist. I'm really not really great at drawing or painting, and I'm really bad at shadow, and pretty much I'm bad at color theory or whatever. But like I said, I kind of consider myself to be more like a hobbyist than an artist. Everybody in my family is actually an artist and can paint and draw, and my husband is an artist too. But I kind of just, for some reason, I can do mica powder painting, and I just make it simple for myself. So I kind of picture where I want the light to be. If I know it's an eye, then, and there's a ridge above that eye, then I want the shadow to be beneath it. So I put the darker shade just to make it look more realistic. And when I put the lighter shades, I kind of blend it in, And my special technique I like to do, once I've put all my different shades and colors and everything together, then I come behind it with kind of like a cohesive color, something that'll make it all tie together. So it has to be something you really like, because pretty much any gap that you've left in your painting is going to be that color, and it has to be able to tie the whole piece together. Sometimes I'll use metallic powder because I just want an extra sheen. Sometimes I use color changing. Sometimes I just use regular mica powder, just plain old mica powder with nothing special on it, because I want that specific color or because I want it to be muted. But either way, that kind of helps when you actually have that linking color, because it fills in any gaps. I did want to let you know that the color of your resin can impact how your mica powder looks in the end. So I'm sure you're going to see a bunch of examples through this video, but if I pour a darker resin, like if I've mixed it with black paint, then the black pigment, so the black mica powder and silver mica powder, those tend to be darker. But even if I use black mica powder, if I come behind it and use like yellow epoxy, it's not going to be true black. It's going to be like gray or kind of silvery. And so a lot of times you have to keep in mind what you want your piece to look like. I know a lot of people just use plain white or black or something like that just to make it simple, but like if you want to make your color pop even more, you can use like a vibrant yellow or a vibrant pink behind it. I've had it kind of make me angry when I tried to make a jungle dragon, which I haven't really succeeded in doing yet, but I used a bunch of like different shades of green behind it with epoxy resin, and it just comes out kind of muted. Like I used like this crazy vibrant orange as a highlight, and when I put the green behind it, it just kind of came out green. You want to keep that in mind. Whatever you mix behind it, whatever epoxy resin you use behind it is going to alter the color. Also, in some instances, you may see glitter come through. Like I said in my last video, when you use metal powder, sometimes you don't see, or most of the time you don't see any glitter or accessories or anything you put behind it, because I think it's just such a strong substance. Like it's actually metal, it's reflective, you don't see behind it. But if you're using glitter with mica powder, that will fall through to the bottom of the mold. So whatever you put on there, you're gonna see the glitter at the bottoms. When you take it out, it'll be on top of it. So basically, unless you're casting a mold where the surface is on top, most molds are downward facing. But if you're using a downward facing mold, anything you put in there is just gonna sink to the bottom. So just keep in mind when you're putting glitter in, don't be surprised if like you're making a book. Like that's what happened the first couple of times I make my regular books. I put glitter in it and it just sank to the bottom. So I have to use the bottom as the back of my book because the glitter was, it just sinks. So the last thing I would say about painting with mica powder is just take your time, be creative, and kind of try to think of it as traditional paint in that sense, except you can't really make too many mistakes. I find that actually it's a little bit freeing knowing that you can't go back and fix it. Like you can't just make it perfect. Like when I watercolor, if it's not perfect, like I try to fix it and I try to do layers, and like mica powder is so simple. You put it on there. If it's not right, you can try to take it out with some tape, but usually that's just the way it is, and you have to kind of accept that. So you just learn to be careful and, you know, do your shading and stages, things like that, and don't sweat it. That's it. Like there's no touch-ups. That's it once it's there. So I hope this video was informative. If you did like it, please like and subscribe. And I'll try to make some more videos about how I cast my pieces if you're interested. Thank you.